I'm back again with a project machine that I haven't had on camera since, well, the beginning of this channel. And that's this old Champion generator. The last time I filmed this thing, I did an experiment to see if I could run this thing on propane without the appropriate apparatus. During a power outage, I found out that the carburetor was completely trashed in this thing, and because we needed power, I had to think of something. So, in a fit of improvisation, I took an old propane regulator, some plumbing fittings, and a short piece of hose and rigged up that right there. That allowed me to plug the end of that hose to the input line on the carburetor and open up the regulator enough to let out just enough propane to allow the engine to start up and run at a fixed RPM without any hassles. Now, while that worked just fine and we were able to run the generator for many hours, I would rather put the right apparatus on here. Now, what you see in front of you is essentially the right apparatus. It's a dual fuel carburetor made for Honda GX200 or any Chonda engine like a Predator 212 or a generic 196 like that engine right there. And it's a simple, straightforward setup. You have standard gas carburetor that eats gas, and you have the propane regulator unit that plumbs into the standard carburetor, and the input line for the propane feeds propane into the regulator to step it down to probably a couple psi or so it could be able to feed into the engine and run it at a fixed RPM without any real hassles. Installation of this unit is pretty straightforward. It's just a matter of removing the couple of nuts and the fuel line from the old carburetor and popping off the governor linkages in order to completely remove the carburetor, and doing everything in reverse for the new unit. From there, with the new unit installed, I just have to take my improvised propane hose assembly and plug the bare rubber hose end to the input line on the propane regulator and put a worm clamp on there for safety. And from there, this thing should be ready to rock and roll. All I have to do now is just hook a propane tank up to it and see if this pile is actually going to start up. On the propane carburetor, there's a knob right here that serves like a throttle to administer more or less gas, I'm guessing. And there's a main cutoff right here to let gas into the unit altogether. I'm going to turn the gas on. I'm assuming this thing is letting gas out. Don't know. But if I turn this, you could actually see gas coming out of the intake of the carburetor. So I think we're on the right track. If I put it in the middle, seems like it doesn't put out much gas. But I'm going to go ahead and turn this thing off, let this excess gas vent off, get the camera set up, and try to fire this thing up once again. as you can see, the generator is running on full propane. I even unplugged the gas line from the main carburetor to make sure it wasn't sucking down any residual fuel from the gas tank. Now, I also took a moment to plug up the welder to it and laid a little bit of bead on that piece of pipe right there to verify that the generator was going to keep running on propane while under a heavy draw. And it performed perfectly. It did what it was normally going to do. It would surge a little bit while it catches up with itself, but it kept on keeping on. It laid that bead down. It supplied the power like I needed it to, so I would call this a win. But you could also see I had to play with that orange regulator, or throttle-ish regulator, to get the amount of fuel flow just right to allow this thing to start up. Once I found that happy medium, the thing started up and it's running smoothly. I could smell the propane exhaust. You can't. You're not missing anything. But with that being said, I'm going to leave it off here because this is another successful project completed. I converted this little old generator to a true dual fuel unit. So the next thing I'll probably do to this generator is actually add electric start to it. Since this is a Chonda engine after all, the electric start kits are pretty cheap. We have one on the KT196 go-kart, which is essentially the same engine. So that'll be the next thing I'll do to this generator. So it'll be even more convenient to use. But until then, I'll leave it off here. Hit the like button. Likes are free. Hit the subscribe button if you hadn't already. Click the notifications to be kept up to date on future projects like this. Check out the TikTok, Facebook, website, all that good stuff. And I will catch you later. I am out.